is time to look at the Avondale Guineas, and we're joined by Luke Radich and Michael Coleman to help us through what is ultimately 2 weeks out from the Derby and the final guide, that final piece to the puzzle possibly for the Vodafone New Zealand Derby. And Luke, as we've seen over the years, this has been the best path to be able to find that Derby winner.
This is a great graphic. It really does underline how much of a good guide the Avondale Guineas is to the Derby, just a string of winners coming through it. And this year, I'm not convinced it'll be the lead-up race that has the key form in it, but I suspect it probably is. Usually it's just the starting point and the finishing point for your Derby analysis. Not quite like that this year, but I still think it's more likely than not that the Derby winner comes through the Avondale Guineas.
Okay, well, let's have a look at the race, the Avondale Guineas, and where it was held, of course, at Ellerslie, over a distance of 2,100 metres, 2 weeks out from the Vodafone New Zealand Derby. Rocket Spade started a $2 favourite. He was the winner of the race. Jason Beltry second, On Display third. The same trifecta as the Auckland Guineas. Lord Ardmore fourth, Milford fifth, Lafayette sixth, Tribute King seventh, and Edge of Wonder finishing into eighth position. Michael Coleman will bring you in here over the 2,100 metres. There was a skirmish with a horse that lost jockey Sam Weatherly, and we saw On Display pushing forward, and then the speed went out of the race. Jason Beltry went forward down the back straight with the loose horse. What do you make of what was a fairly messy race, wasn't it, with the riderless horse and how the race was run?
Yeah, well, Rocket Spade was very, very lucky to sort of get around Sam Weatherly there at that stage and not be interfered with too much. But On Display set up a good pace around that first corner, and things were looking pretty good until about the 1,300, and then Sam Collett put the brakes on Display and sort of packed the field, and a few of them got into trouble. And Jason Beltry was probably still pulling a bit before the brakes came on, and Vinny just made the decision to go forward, and when he got shuffled out, so he decided to go forward and lead from that stage. So it was a changing race, but Craig got into quite a good spot on Rocket Spade, and he shuffled Elafair out of the way at the 1,300 when the brakes went on, and a few horses were just struggling to settle. And from that point on, he just got into a great spot. He did, again, he floated up with his head. I didn't think he pulled again, but he just floats up and just struggles to find his rhythm a little bit. But, he was just, when the speed went on again at the 600 metres, he was the one that made his way into the race easily, while the others all got under pressure pretty quickly. So he's just got a little bit of that X factor that he can make up 2 or 3 lengths pretty quickly on his opposition.
Yeah, Luke, that's a key point, isn't it, to the race, where the speed does go on. He travels under it, picks up the bit beautifully, and really works into it at that point, like the winner a long way from home, really.
He did, and Michael is exactly right, that he's the horse that has that turn of speed that can immediately gain 2 or 3 lengths on his opposition and put them to bed. What I would note, or one thing I'd note out of this race, is how Jason Beltry in the blue and white colours is coming back. Even Lord Ardmore right up the inside, but Jason Beltry in second, really coming back at him on the line, and even past the post. You do see Jason Beltry in front again pretty quickly after the post. It actually reminded me quite a lot of the Avondale Guineas last year, funnily enough with the horse in the same colours, Dragon Leap, who won the race, and Sherwood Forest was coming back at him on the line, and past the post, Sherwood Forest was trucking and Dragon Leap's pulled up very, very quickly. It's not quite as pronounced in this year's Avondale Guineas, but there's a bit of that about him. I really like Jason Beltry. I thought this was a good, tough run. Exactly what I wanted to see from a Derby point of view. He can put himself in the race. I'm more confident than perhaps any other horse in the race that he'll run a strong 2,400 metres. He tries so hard. I just don't see that there are any negatives to Jason Beltry, and I think he is the best bet in the race for the Derby at the time of filming at 14 the win and $3.50 for the place. That is plenty good enough to me. I'm not knocking Rocket Spade. That's purely a comment about the market and the difference between them.
Michael, bring you in around other horses in behind. Lord Ardmore, we've seen that runner through the 3-year-old Karaka Classic, finishing into 7th. That horse has run 4th here. And maybe Milford. I noticed Lee Thinnis made the comment that blinkers will be applied and then we'll see a sharper performance from that horse when we get into 2,400 metres. Your comments around those two runners, 4th and 5th, Lord Ardmore, Milford?
Lord Ardmore was good again. I thought still a little bit one-paced again, but still was good to the line. Probably a little bit similar to the Karaka Classic, but yeah, he's just not looking sharp, but he looks like he's going to run a good trip. So you can't discount him. Millfield, I've been a fan of the horse, but he just still looks a little bit weak and a little bit behind the 8 ball, just floats up with his head, and when the pace went on at the 600 he struggled to quicken with him, but a few of them did also, but he just looks like he just needs to sharpen up a little bit. And you know, I was thinking about the horse the other day, and I was thinking, time to take the side blinkers off and put blinkers on. So maybe my thinking was right if they're going to put the blinkers on him, which might help the horse's chances. But he just looks a little bit weak to me at this stage. But Stephen Marsh knows what it takes to win a Derby. Won it 2 years ago with these colours as well. So hoping he runs well for Bruce Perry and Lipatanga.
Yeah, Luke, your comments around some of the beaten brigade?
I like Lord Ardmore. I agree with Michael that he's one-paced, but I see that for the Derby as being a positive thing rather than a negative. He'll keep on going, and you see with the sectionals there, Lord Ardmore was the fastest the last 400 and the 200. He was Blinker's first time in the Avondale Guineas, and he did over-race a little. I'd want to see him settling better in the Derby. I agree with Michael about Milford, still a bit of a raw talent. I like him for the medium and long term, but a little bit less so for the Derby. I think he's under the odds at $6, although I feel a bit nervous about that when I hear someone whose opinion I respect as much as Neil Davis of formpro.co.nz saying how much he likes Milford. So I wouldn't rule him out, but at $6 I wouldn't be having a dollar on him.
Okay, Michael Coleman, your overall summary of the race, is this the guide that we needed to be able to find our Derby winner from 2 weeks ago, the Avondale Guineas?
Well, it's that same form, isn't it? The Rocket Spade, Jason Beltry on display, Lord Ardmore. They've sort of been around each other all the way through, and up to this distance, Rocket Spade's been superior. So, you know, I think behind them, I don't think you could take too much out of the race, but you know, you get those other horses join in from the Waikato Guineas. It's sure to be a great race.
Who do you want to be on, Michael? Who do you want to be on if you had the opportunity to say that's the one I want to be on in this year's Derby?
I think I'd like to be on Montre more. What he did in the Karaka Classic and the way he finishes off things in the Waikato Guineas, I think I'd like to be on him. I think he just profiles nicely for the race, and hopefully he can draw a little bit of an alley and can race a little bit closer, which would be a great help to him.
And Luke, you've spoken a lot around Jason Beltry's price and with where he sits and the difference between both he and the favourite and Rocket Spade. So is that your top selection, or are you just picking out something that where you feel as though there's an edge in the market?
Well, look, we can I guess, the latter, I guess, Brendan, because it doesn't take anything to just label the top 3 best winning chances in the race. Most of the time you're just going to be saying what the market is. I think straight out on that analysis, Montre Moi would be my strongest winning chance in the race. Not by very much, but slightly. But in terms of a betting proposition in the race, because I think it's an even race, because I think there's very little between them, I think you've got to be looking for something at better odds. And I compare, for example, Montre Moi's price to win the race at around $3.50, $3.80, basically the same as Jason Beltry's price to place in the race. For me, there's no comparison, even though I like Montre Moi. Jason Beltry is a tremendous place bet at that price. I really think so.